I'm a Noongar girl from Bunbury. I come from a small family of 4 with 2 sisters and 1 brother. My father's family is from a small town in the wheat belt, Beverley, and my mum's family is from the southwest, Bunbury. I'm a 2013 graduate from Newtmore Senior High School, where I graduated with honours and was lucky enough to be named the Sportswoman of the Year award. I completed a 2-year school-based traineeship with BHP Billiton, where I completed my Cert 3 in Business Admin. Without the experience and opportunities that I was offered, I wouldn't have gained the confidence and life skills that I have today and which I value deeply. So put your hand up if you love AFL. Should be everyone. Yeah. Great, me too. It's my passion and it's what I love. With my strong desire for women's football, I had been selected to represent WA 3 years in a row at a state level in the National Carnival. With my strong commitment and dedication, it really was a struggle at times to combine both my Year 12 and my dedication to football. With the support from the Newtonmore Girls Academy, who were able to provide me with the positivity, motivation and necessary encouragement to achieve my goals. After graduating, I had moved to Perth to complete a full-time traineeship with V Swans in partnership with the Swan District Football Club as a community development officer. In conjunction with the V Swans staff, we ran an active after-school program to schools within the community. This allowed me to engage young Indigenous and non-Indigenous students in a healthy and active lifestyle, using football as the carrot. Once I had completed my full-time traineeship, I was fortunate enough to gain employment with Smile, a non-for-profit community-based charity with over 28 years of experience in delivering community, education and training programs to young people. I work as a field officer where I mentor and support Aboriginal school-based trainees from across the southwest. I'm so passionate about our youth and being able to help and guide the individuals in the right pathway to achieve their goals. That's better than any paycheck. This is my way in giving back, providing the help and support to the trainees that I had received when I went through school, because without it, I wouldn't have been where I am today. I didn't get anything handed to me. I had worked very hard to be where I am today. It came from being dedicated, motivated, and I just had the drive to want. As a young girl growing up, I didn't think I'd be so passionate about a male-dominated sport, AFL. We currently have over 200,000 females across the country playing the sport. See, football was my way out and showing who I am and what I'm capable of. It helped me get through my dark times growing up. Losing my father at the age of 12, it was extremely hard on my family. But with my brother taking on the role of being the father figure in my life, I couldn't thank him enough. We all have role models, right? Well, my brother is mine. And I know that my dad would be very proud of him in taking on his role in looking after us girls. A wise man once told me that I can do anything that I want to do, as long as I work hard for it, and nothing's going to be handed to me. That wise man was my father, and I just want to thank him for putting that into my head, because it's what I've done and what I will continue to do. Thank you.
I'm swimming with the whale sharks. It's the closest I'll ever come.
Good afternoon, I'm Jack and this is Kaleb. We're from Creaney Primary and we're here to tell you about our school's World Shark Tracking program. Who knew what an adventure we would be taken on when Mr. Dowding submitted a form to be part of the Vale Learning Community Whale Shark Tracking program. When our application was accepted, Mr. Dowding, Mrs. Stocks and Mrs. McCulloch attended the professional development on how the program worked and were introduced to Brad Norman. Brad Norman is the director of Ecocean. He was tagging sharks in the Ningaloo Marine Park area for the race around the world prior to the start of the event. This is a research program that includes 15 schools tracking their own shark. Creaney, along with 4 other local schools, make up the Vale learning community. To promote the event in the community and further help the project, we were able to purchase the Race Around the World t-shirt and wear them for the duration of the race. We received an email from Brad informing us that our whale shark is A1135 and is a female. Divers at Ningaloo Reef were taking pictures and were actually able to see what our whale shark looked like.
Did you know the whale shark is Western Australia's marine emblem? They live in warm oceans around the world, and every year they migrate to our coast. Each whale shark has individual spots and striped markings, but they have the same anatomy as other sharks and fish. We've found out the whale shark is the biggest fish in the sea. It is not a whale. It does not have a blowhole. It is a fish. It has gills. The average whale shark is about 12 to 14 metres. However, it can grow up to 20 metres and can weigh as much as 20 tonnes. That's as big as 2 buses. The whale shark is a slow-moving filter feeder. It eats plankton, krill, and small bait fish that float near the surface of the water. It opens its 1 metre wide mouth and sucks the water and food in. Remora fish cling to the whale shark and help eat any leftover food particles that spill out of its mouth. Like all sharks, whale sharks fertilise their eggs inside their body, and the female gives birth to live young called pups. At birth, a whale shark pup is about 55 centimetres. Whale sharks are vulnerable and need to be protected. Sadly, the greatest threat to whale sharks are humans. Western Australia has a well-regulated industry located in the northwest. People can safely dive, snorkel, and swim with whale sharks. I have enjoyed drawing, reading, and learning about the whale shark, but we have especially loved making our paper mache model.
We tracked our whale shark through Brad Norman, attaching the tag to the dorsal fin of the whale shark. The technology used allows satellites to ping the whale shark when it surfaces, usually during feeding. Once the satellite receives the location of the whale shark, the information is then transferred to the zootrack.org website. This is where the schools access the information on all the whale sharks in the race. Mr. Dowding wanted to showcase the wonderful work and we were completing across the school to the wider community, so he has placed all out work on a website. It was also to give credit to our teachers who took up the challenge and implement a whole school learning theme and activities. I have thoroughly enjoyed being a part of the whale shark tracking program this year. It has been particularly interesting for me as my cousins live in Exmouth. I regularly visit them and snorkel on the Ningaloo Reef. It has been awesome to watch and monitor our whale shark as she travelled from Exmouth to roughly Port Hedland.
I found this project really interesting and love the fact that each whale shark has its own unique markings, just like human fingerprints. I thoroughly enjoyed learning about this beautiful, gentle, and majestic creature, and I think that more needs to be done to protect it. We would like to thank you for this opportunity, for having us and allowing us to speak on what we have been learning about at Creaney Primary School.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pria and I'm in Year 10 at Shenton College. High school has been the most amazing experience for me. There are so many incredible opportunities and I'm determined to make the most of them. In April this year, I attended the Sir Charles Court Young Leadership Program run by Curtin University. 30 students out of 122 applicants were selected from across the state. I was fortunate enough to be selected by Shenton. I spent 4 days at Point Walter Recreation Camp with young leaders from Kununurra to Albany, from Perth to Broome. Activities were run by university students, our peer mentors, who had previously attended the camp. I was very anxious as I was to be spending 4 days with people I had never met before. But as we built rafts, climbed crates, took part in scavenger hunts, and ate a whole lot of watermelon, everyone got to know each other really well. I met people who were really similar to me and found that the camp provided a basis for us to connect in ways that perhaps we wouldn't be able to otherwise. The program provided a very inspiring environment for me. With my newfound confidence, my aspirations to do something got even stronger. I would like to one day do some good for the environment, for gender equality. I was thrilled to find myself in a room full of people who also wanted to change the world. In fact, I've already promised my vote to a future Prime Minister. Throughout the camp, we were divided into peer tutor groups, where we talked about our challenges and struggles, as well as the happy moments in our lives and on the camp. We also took part in a series of workshops on qualities of a leader, types of leaders, as well as valuable skills which we could put into practice at our school. Through the program, I learnt new skills that are transferable to my high school, as well as how to build confidence in my own abilities. I believe that I can bring this to Shenton to help build our teams and our future leaders. At the closing ceremony at Curtin, I was fortunate enough to shake Richard Court's hand as I was presented with my certificate. It was his father, Sir Charles Court, who had founded the program. When it was time to say farewell to my camp buddies, nobody wanted to leave. Everyone was in tears, girls and boys included. At Shenton, I've been a student councillor since Year 8. It all started when students were asked to nominate one councillor per class. I got elected. I would like to think that I was elected on merit, but really it was because I was the only girl who volunteered. Nevertheless, I've been re-elected every year since then, and it has really helped me to contribute to my school and to prepare me for the future. I'm learning to deal with different sorts of people in and out of the council. I'm responsible for communications between councillors and the student body, as well as running assemblies. This teaches me valuable organisational skills as well as public speaking skills. I am currently the Secretary of the Executive Councillors Board. In this role, I am tasked with the responsibility of attending meetings, distributing information, and liaising with students and teachers across the school. The Sir Charles Court Young Leaders Program definitely helped me to figure out, for example, what style of leadership works best for me, as well as how to better collaborate and negotiate. Through the Student Council, I've been involved in many projects, such as the 40-hour famine. Last year, thanks to my generous supporters, I was able to raise over $500 for World Vision. But this didn't come easy. I gave up furniture, so that meant no chairs and no bed for 40 hours. When my parents took my brother and I to the movies that weekend, while they all sat in their comfortable chairs, I sat very uncomfortably in the aisle on the ground. Let me tell you though, the weird glances from others were worth every penny. I've also been lucky enough to develop my confidence and broaden my horizons through many school trips. In Year 9, I competed in the World Scholars Cup. The competition was a mix of general knowledge, research and debating skills. Shenton hosted the first regional round in Perth, where my team of 3 placed 4th, qualifying us for the global round, which was held in Singapore. The competition in Singapore brought students together from over 200 countries. And although my team didn't win, it was a fantastic learning opportunity for me to travel overseas and meet like-minded students from other cultures, share thoughts and challenges during academic activities, take part in scavenger hunts on Sentosa Island, and come away with a whole new network of friends. Also in Year 9, I participated in our school tour to Sydney and Canberra. The tour incorporated both fun and educational elements. We saw Parliament House, museums, and the War Memorial. It was very good for all of us to be able to go and see these places and actually see, for example, the Senate in action. It provided a unique opportunity for us to learn about our government and the way our country is run. In April this year, I went to our sister city in Chengdu in Western China. 10 of us from Shenton went as ambassadors on behalf of the city of Perth. I did a homestay with my allocated buddy and her family. I experienced firsthand the warm Chinese hospitality, climbing a mountain with my buddy, her cousins and her friends, and ate many home-cooked meals at my buddy's grandparents' house, where her grandmother lovingly prepared homemade dumplings. I was homesick at first, as it was a long time to be away from home, but my host family made me feel very welcome. I learnt to cope outside of my comfort zone. Throughout the trip, I spent time at our sister school, learning Mandarin, which I had not studied before, meeting a lot of the Chinese students, and taking part in various Chinese cultural activities like Chinese opera, calligraphy, and pottery. The trip was an incredibly eye-opening experience. The unique program offered us a chance to actually be in the shoes of a high school student in Chengdu. During the trip, I found that if you don't speak the language, it's pretty much guaranteed that you don't know what you're eating. I was at a welcome banquet with 28 courses, sweet, sour, and spicy included. There was one dish in particular that I liked. I found out after the dinner that that dish was made of rabbit. I was really uncomfortable about this when I found out, but it was all part of the experience. At Shenton, I'm a part of the Academic Talent Program. I'm in a class constantly surrounded by students who are similar and who are on the same wavelength. It's an extremely valuable experience for me, and I'm really glad to be a part of it. The program provides an inspiring environment where we can discuss, debate, and attempt to solve all of the world's problems. I've also taken part in a series of extracurricular activities, including maths enrichment and science Olympiads. These programs have allowed me to extend my learning and to explore my passions even further. One of my favourite extracurricular activities at school is debating. It's hard to believe that around 10 years ago, I was a shy little girl at primary school. I still remember that on one occasion during a school Christmas play, when it was my turn to speak, I just shook my head and refused to say my lines. But debating at high school has really helped me to come out of my shell and develop my skills. I've been lucky enough to reach the final rounds of the WA Debating League ever since Year 8, including reaching the quarterfinals this year. I know that what I've learnt through debating will help my confidence in myself, as well as improving my skills, such as thinking on my feet and articulating my thoughts and arguments. So far on my high school journey, I am so fortunate and grateful to have taken part in all of these activities. I have improved my confidence, social skills, exposure to other cultures, and academic skills. I feel that at Shenton it really has been about more than just marks. I want to be able to contribute as much as I can, for that to me is truly rewarding. It's impossible to summarise my high school experience. Even though I'm only halfway through it, I know I will look back at it as some of the best years in my life. Thank you.
In April this year, Claire and I had the privilege of travelling to Gallipoli with the Premier's Anzac student tour for the centenary commemoration of the Gallipoli landings. During our 10-day stay and tour of Turkey, we had the opportunity to walk the Gallipoli Peninsula in the footsteps of our soldiers, learn about the war from different perspectives, and explore the capital city of Istanbul. The tour was a life-changing experience for us both, and today we're here to share this experience with you all.
Visiting the Gallipoli Peninsula was so unlike anything I have ever experienced before. To have learnt about these places in textbooks and the stories is one thing, but to have actually stood on the ground where our Anzacs and the Turkish fought 100 years ago and see the war through their eyes was a very surreal feeling. Visiting the Lone Pine Cemetery was a deeply moving experience for me. My group conducted a commemorative service for the many Australians and Turkish people who lost their lives in the war. I gave a speech written on the Battle of Lone Pine, and we laid a personalised wreath with photos of our loved ones and objects with great meaning to us, in honour of all who fought.
Every battle site which we travelled to was an emotional experience. However, one site in particular hit us the hardest, and this place was Shell Green Memorial. This site was where the famous cricket match between the Anzacs and Turkish took place, and is now the memorial of 409 soldiers who lost their lives on the surrounding battlefields. 106 men from the 11th Battalion of WA who were lost here are buried, the majority from the local communities of Perth. As we look down on their headstones, we realise the many connections to what we have been learning. The dates marked those who had been killed on the day of the landing or during the key battles such as the August Offensive. This horrific loss plagued me and the other students deeply, as I pictured the friends, family and students from Vale lying side by side in a foreign nation, never to return home. On these headstones, touching messages from the fallen's families are written. Their glory shall not be blotted out, and God rest my darling son's soul. These messages show how each headstone not only represents an individual lost, but the family and community who were left to mourn him.
During the tour, we learnt about the war from a number of different perspectives. Never before had we understood how heavily the Turkish suffered, and understanding this tragedy was highly valuable to me as a history student, as I had never before considered the Turkish perspective of the war. Having the opportunity to learn about it from renowned Turkish historian Kenan Şalik was an enlightening experience and has greatly enriched my perspective of the Gallipoli campaign. I learnt that the Turkish joined the war out of necessity to defend their homeland and not by choice. And whilst the Gallipoli landings are viewed as the birth of a nation here in Australia, for the Turkish it was an invasion of their homeland. These men, just like us, left behind families to defend their country, many to never return home to their families.
After our tour of the Peninsula, we travelled to Istanbul to experience the Turkish culture. During our stay in Istanbul, we had the opportunity to learn of the fascinating Turkish history. We toured the spectacular Topkapi Palace, once the home of the Sultans of Turkey, housing the furniture and tapestries that existed when royalty walked the same halls. We also explored the Basilica Cistern, where the fearsome Medusa was believed to have roamed. In addition to these historical sites, we experienced the Grand Bazaar and Egyptian spice market, embracing the Turkish culture firsthand. It was a wonderful experience exploring the Turkish environment and ancient history that Istanbul had to offer, and was a great experience to all of us.
The Anzac Day Commemorations were the highlight of the tour. As we watched the boats come in, I could imagine them filled with Anzacs, flowing with nerves and fear, about to make the plunge into battle. The harsh terrain and heavy Turkish fire which these soldiers experienced is something we couldn't comprehend, and it made our appreciation of their bravery grow ever more. It was heartbreaking to think of the immense pain and suffering that was brought about by the war, but there was something special about thousands of Australians and New Zealanders who had gathered 100 years later to commemorate the sacrifices made by our men.
Only a few of the tour participants and teachers had family descendants who fought on the shores of Gallipoli, and I was one of them. Herbert William Baker of the 3rd Field Ambulance was a part of the tragic landing on the 25th of April and was fortunate enough to survive the campaign and the war. Baker fought alongside the Australian hero John Simpson, the men with the donkeys, sharing a tent with him until his tragic death. Paying my respects to Baker and the thousands of soldiers who perished on the Peninsula was an emotional experience which I will never forget.
The Premier's Anzac student tour was indeed a life-changing experience for me, and I will forever cherish the memories I have made in Gallipoli. The friendships I have made on this tour will no doubt last a lifetime, and I feel very lucky to have shared this experience with 39 wonderful people who have become my family in only 12 days. I feel blessed to have been given the opportunity to travel to Gallipoli and learn more about Australia's military history, commemorating our veterans at the dawn service at Anzac Cove on the 100th anniversary of the Gallipoli landing. I have learned about many different perspectives on the war, as well as many battles and the experience of individuals. I have come to appreciate the unique cultural experience that Turkey has to offer and thoroughly enjoyed exploring the beautiful city of Istanbul. The tour has been an emotional roller coaster. There have been many tears shed, but also much laughter and many smiles exchanged. I return home a changed person, with a better understanding and appreciation of the hardships endured by our Anzacs during times of war. I feel incredibly thankful, more so than ever before, for my life here in Australia, that is free of poverty, war, and conflict. I feel I have grown as a person, and this tour has taught me to take responsibility and has given me the confidence to step up and make a difference in my community. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Honourable Colin Barnett, the Premier of Western Australia, and the State Government for offering this program. We would also like to acknowledge the wonderful staff that came on the trip and facilitated an excellent history education program for us all. In particular, Robin Cleaver, our tour manager, a public school teacher who is with us today, who worked tirelessly to construct our itinerary and ensure we had an enjoyable and educational experience. Without her work, and that of the other selected staff, the tour would not have been so rewarding. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name's Phoebe Boyd. I'm come here today to tell you about my journey and how I've grown up in my deaf world. I've come from a deaf family. My parents are both deaf. I have a sister and brother who are also deaf. I've just turned 18 recently. Auslan is the most beautiful language, and I use that at home all the time. As you can see, it's a beautiful language. My second language is English. So I use English as a second language. Auslan is my first language. I'd like to talk a little bit about my upbringing, especially my primary school to begin with. I have deaf parents, like I said, and they put me into a mainstream public school, and that was Beachborough Primary School. And I was there with my older brother. And at this particular school, they had never had any deaf people in this school before, so I was the second, following my brother. I was never left behind because I had the support from the visiting teachers that would come in and the interpreters, and they would encourage me through all my primary school education. When I got there, it was very hard to make friends. It was not very easy for me to make friends because, I didn't have anybody to play with, and it was really hard to communicate. So I had to look for other friends, and I did that. So I was very, very lucky that I met this one girl who was also very lonely at this school. She was standing by a fence, and I asked her one day if she wanted to come and play with me. And she said yes. And what happened then was I had made a new friend, and we were really good. We supported each other in school, and then from there I was able to interact more with the hearing world. When I was growing up at primary school, children were very mean to me. They would bully me because I was deaf. I was different. And my brother would always support me. And he would say to me, just ignore them. Don't worry about the mean kids at school. And the teacher didn't know this was going on. They didn't know how that I felt because I was unable to express how I felt. And they said, they would say to me, look, don't worry, just keep going on with it. But I withdrew from school. There were days that I just didn't want to go back to school because the teachers didn't understand my perspective. So I used to fake being sick so I could stay at home, so I didn't have to go to school because I didn't want to go to be bullied again. And then when I got to year 7, I was in the same school at Beachborough, and it was time now to move to high school. And before that, I wanted to go to John Forrest High School, which was near my home. And my best friend was going there as well, so I wanted to go to that school with her. and go to year 12 with my best friend, but my mum said that I couldn't. I had to go to Shenton College where my brother was already there. So I had to leave my best friend, and so I had to go to a different school, so our friendship sort of dissolved. But just like everybody else, when they had to go to a new high school, they left friends behind. So let me talk a little bit about Shenton College. Like I said, my mum chose the best high school for me, which was Shenton College. They had a deaf unit in there. It's an excellent school. So when I arrived there, excuse me, they made me feel so welcome. And it was easy to socialise because there were other deaf people there. And I had never been involved in the deaf community. This was the first time for me. So it was a great experience at Shenton College for me. In the deaf education school, Shenton College has a big deaf education unit, and they have mainstream as well for the deaf, and a high activity mainstream. They have a lot of deaf students there that can deaf students that can sign like me, and some of them are hard of hearing, some are hearing impaired, and some use voices, some use sign, and there's a whole different mode of communication over there. A lot of them are bilingual, and they use Auslan and they use Auslan and spoken language equally at the school. So I have opportunities to speak in any mode that I want. So I'm very proud of being at this school. I'm proud of my mum for putting me there. And nobody there bullies me, because at Shenton College they're used to the deaf people walking around the corridors, and because we're in their classrooms, we're in the canteen, and everybody just mixes. There's no bullying, and it's very comfortable there. And there is and it's really easy there to make new friends, because the hearing people there learn how to sign, because we have LOTE there. It's a lot easier it's easier in high school than it was in primary school, because I have a lot of support from the teachers, and they've got the deaf centre and the hearing centre, and it was very easy to make out my way around the school.
Hearing and deaf, like when we're in the centre of the school or the middle school, they start to learn Auslan as a LOTE. And it's very, very popular for the other students to want to learn Auslan, and I'm hoping that Auslan become an ATAR subject in 2018. Dr. Karen Bontempo is going to be the ACAR on the ACAR panel. And hopefully we're going to make it... Gee, we're doing really well.
We are. Sorry, and she is making it more accessible for all the hearing people to learn sign language in our school, so that everybody can speak with each other. And in the future, like nursing, policing, so everybody else then, once these students from Shenton College know how to use a bit of sign language, when they actually go and do their vocation, they will have this language, so that when we go into a vet or a policeman, we can actually speak one-on-one with these people, because they'll know our language. So the deaf are mainstream. We are in the hearing class as well as a deaf class, and when we are in the hearing class, we have an interpreter and a note taker, so we don't miss any of the education whatsoever. So we are on par with the hearing peers in our class. So we have access just like the hearing people do at Shenton College. So we have all opportunities to go to university or go into vet. So we can choose whatever it is whatever our path is that we want to do. So we have, So as a deaf person, I am able to get a certificate and do whatever my choices are open. So in year 10, I did some work experience, so I could do anything, and I love horses. So in year 11, my teacher found a TAFE for me that I could go to, and I went there for a year, 2 days a week, and I got my Cert 3 in business, industrial. As stable hand, I got a stable hand certificate for that. So I love to work with horses. So when I got there, they didn't let me because they said that I was deaf and I couldn't work with horses, and I had to prove once again that they were wrong, and I had to show them my skills, and I said I could do this. So at Shenton College and the Deaf Centre there, they advocated for my rights to be there, and they said that they couldn't bar me from this, so they let me in. So I was able to study. So in year 12, which I am now, I got my Cert 2 in hairdressing, which I'm doing now. So it's happening again, and they're saying that I can't do it because I can't communicate with clients. And I'm saying, well, no, let me prove you wrong once again. I can communicate. English is not the only mode of communication, and I can use pen and paper if I want to communicate with people. And also, so I got into hairdressing, and so next I'm going to do a bit of a work experience at TAFE. I'm going to do fashion. We're going to do a bit of fashion at head office in the city, and I'm going to be working there, I think, 8 weeks. Yeah, that's right, 8 weeks. And they said I don't need an interpreter. I said I didn't need an interpreter, I can just go on my own. And they really liked the work that I was doing, and they were giving me really good comments. And so when I graduated from school, they were going to give me an apprenticeship. So that was exciting. So, and on the other Cert 3 that I was talking about before, when I finished that, I actually got the best marks in the class. So I did that with honours. And I have another class that supports me. I want to be a teacher of the deaf. This is my plan B. So if I don't get into TAFE or do what I want, I have a teacher of the deaf that can help me to be on par with my hearing peers. Now I'm studying in mainstream. I'm doing English Year 12 equivalent. So on par with the hearing. I'm not actually in mainstream. I actually have a teacher that encourages me and teaches me in a different sort of a way so that I can pass, because English being my second language. And I also do World War extension. So I do an extension in other extra work in other classes. I love the World War II history. And I'm also very, very proud to say that I am the very first deaf person in the centre to get an A grade. So I was very proud of that. I was the first person. Thank you so much. And at school, I mix with the hearing peers as well as the deaf peers. And at lunch and recess, we all mix together, hearing and deaf. And we all go to the school ball and the graduation, and we have festivities and socials, and we mix all together, hearing and the deaf. I do have a lot of deaf friends that I have. They have their own excursions. Okay, we have excursions that we go on to. And I am deaf, and I can access both worlds, the deaf world and the hearing world, because of the mainstream school that I went to, because it is bilingual. And I also believe that deaf can do anything. It doesn't matter if they are hard of hearing or anything. Deaf can just do anything. So I want to thank you very much for watching me and listening to my story. So thank you so much.